Commercial traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is finally picking up again, as tankers begin moving soon after Iran and the United States ink a long-awaited memorandum. Under the new understanding blessed by Mojtaba Khamenei's camp, tankers belonging to U.S. allied states are being allowed to pass through Hormuz. Saudi and French tankers are now exiting Hormuz with their cargoes, yet a crucial clause tied to Mojtaba's conditions still hangs over Washington. Iranian media say Mojtaba has imposed a stunning condition that all ships passing this vital oil choke point must follow some set rules, keeping Tehran's hand on the tap of energy traffic. On June 18th, 3 Saudi-flagged supertankers sailed safely through the Strait of Hormuz, a visible sign that key Gulf producers are once again able to move massive volumes of crude through the corridor. These tankers passed just hours after the US and Iran signed their deal to end hostilities, underlining how quickly markets and maritime traffic are responding to the new diplomatic reality. Together, the Saudi vessels were reportedly loaded with around 6 million barrels of oil, underscoring the scale of energy supplies now able to leave the Gulf without fear of immediate attack. Separately, a French-flagged tanker carrying liquefied natural gas also transited Hormuz, showing that not just crude tankers but high-value LNG shipments are resuming their journeys through the strait. Tracking data indicated that this LNG vessel loaded at Ras Laffan in Qatar and was bound for Port Qasim in Pakistan, linking Gulf gas fields to South Asian demand via the freshly de-escalated sea lane. Overall, a total of 7 vessels were recorded traversing the Strait of Hormuz on June 18th, a noticeable uptick that points to cautious normalization of maritime flows. Among them were 4 cargo ships, the French-flagged LNG tanker, and a Cook Islands-flagged bitumen tanker, all exiting the strait and heading toward open waters and global markets. A Panama-flagged vessel entered Hormuz bound for the Persian Gulf, but then switched off its tracking signal, highlighting the continued use of dark sailing practices even after the deal. All of this is happening as Iranian outlets make clear that ships transiting Hormuz are still required to coordinate with the IRGC Navy, keeping Tehran firmly in the loop on who moves through the choke point and when. At least 3 Iranian-flagged tankers also set sail from Iranian ports on June 18th, showing that Tehran itself is wasting no time in exploiting the opening created by the memorandum. Those Iranian tankers together were said to be carrying roughly 5 million barrels of oil, adding another significant tranche of supply back into the global system. A 4th tanker, loaded with about 2 million barrels of oil, was reportedly approaching the former boundary of the now-lifted U.S. naval blockade, testing how quickly the new rules will be honored in practice. Under the terms of the deal, the U.S. is now bound to lift its naval blockade of Iranian ports, opening previously restricted sea lanes so Iranian oil and goods can move more freely. In return, Iran is obligated to allow all ships to transit the Strait of Hormuz without interference, at least as long as they comply with agreed safety and coordination procedures. Notably, Iran has agreed not to charge any transit fee for ships passing through Hormuz for the next 60 days, a concession designed to stabilize markets and encourage shipping companies to return quickly. The United States and Iran signed this deal virtually on June 17th, and the immediate resumption of tanker traffic is already bringing some relief to previously soaring oil prices and freight rates. Before the Iran deal was reached, U.S. President Donald Trump acknowledged that global oil reserves were nearly exhausted. He said the situation was becoming increasingly critical at the international level. Speaking at the G7 summit, Trump warned that the world could face potential bedlam if oil supplies completely ran out. He stressed that such a shortage could trigger widespread instability across global markets. Trump also claimed that global reserves were at risk of being depleted within just 4 weeks if no deal was finalized. He said urgent action was necessary to prevent a major global energy crisis.
We run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. You know, there are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out, and there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me how smart they are, ask them why didn't they blow up General Soleimani? Ask that of the general and a couple of other people that I like very much, but boy, are they wrong.
Trump said that continued military strikes would have kept the Hormuz Strait closed to commercial shipping. He warned that escalation would have blocked one of the world's most important trade routes. He added that without the agreement, oil tankers would have stopped moving through this strategic waterway. He suggested that global energy flows would have been severely disrupted. The Hormuz Strait handles around 1/5 of global oil consumption through maritime trade routes. It remains one of the most critical choke points for international energy supply. The International Energy Agency had also warned that only weeks of commercial oil inventories were left at the time. It highlighted the risk of a rapid global supply shortage. US President Donald Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian have formally signed the Memorandum of Understanding. The 14-point agreement is designed to end hostilities between the two countries and reopen the Strait of Hormuz to normal navigation. The memorandum establishes a 60-day ceasefire period during which both sides will pursue negotiations on a broader final agreement. Trump signed the document during a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris on June 18. Meanwhile, President Pezeshkian signed the memorandum in Iran, completing the process from Tehran's side. The agreement begins with a region-wide ceasefire, aiming to halt hostilities and lay the groundwork for a permanent end to the conflict. Both sides have pledged to respect each other's sovereignty and avoid interference in internal affairs, signaling a shift toward de-escalation. Washington and Tehran have set a 60-day deadline to negotiate a broader final agreement, with an option to extend talks if needed. The United States has agreed to begin lifting its naval blockade, while Iran will gradually restore normal shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has agreed to ensure free and safe passage for commercial vessels traveling between the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman for a limited period of 60 days. The memorandum outlines plans for a massive $300 billion economic development initiative aimed at supporting Iran's recovery. The United States has agreed in principle to discuss sanctions relief as part of a broader and mutually accepted final settlement. Iran has reaffirmed that it will not pursue nuclear weapons, while both sides work on a framework for managing enriched uranium. Until a final agreement is reached, Iran will maintain its current nuclear activities and the US will avoid new sanctions or military deployments. The agreement allows for sanctions waivers that could enable Iranian oil exports and related financial services to resume. Both sides will explore pathways toward financial normalization, including discussions on frozen assets and economic access. Once initial commitments are implemented, negotiations will expand to address all remaining issues required for a lasting settlement. Progress toward a final agreement will depend on both sides demonstrating compliance with ceasefire and maritime obligations. Any final agreement is expected to be submitted to the United Nations Security Council for international legal backing and enforcement. The release of the US-Iran memorandum has triggered a fierce battle over who emerged victorious from the negotiations. While Washington portrays the agreement as a framework tied to Iranian compliance, Tehran is presenting it as a major diplomatic win. Iran's Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf says the deal reflects what he calls a failure of US pressure on Iran. Ghalibaf argues that history will judge the agreement as evidence that Washington failed to impose its demands on Tehran. Iran's Parliament Speaker also claims the memorandum includes provisions for roughly $300 billion in future investment for Iran.